So I just got this, and I thought it'd be a fun idea to flip to any random page and then make whatever monster follows up on it. So say, for example, I just flipped it to now. I will now have the Umber Hulk to make, or Ivory Unicorn, depending on the page. So, I'm gonna make a random page generator, and then we're gonna go from there, okay? Okay, here we go. Drum roll, please. Wow, this is longer than I was expecting. And we have 180, so we're gonna flip to that page. All right, so I just found page 180, and we've got ourselves the Invisible Stalker. Seriously, of the first day, how is this the one? Of all things. So here's my take on an Invisible Stalker. I hope you guys like. Remember to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for next time. Peace. Okay, now that that joke's out of the way, I thought I'd actually do a version of the Invisible Stalker where I feel a Dungeon Master would actually like to use as like a mini proxy. Well, I know it is kind of redundant because, invisible, like, literally half the words in the title of it, but it's like interesting enough to actually go about a way of trying to like actually materialize something invisible, especially like since like the lore of this guy is a invisible like wind spirit that's used to like hunt down people as an assassin or thief. So I was trying to incorporate things that I thought would probably work really well for it. And say for a wind-based assassin, that like whenever it comes to like most magic systems in like games or films or media or whatever, like it tends to have like a very slashing sort of like very aggressive sort of like orientation towards it. Which is kind of funny because like saying Avatar: The Last Airbender, like the air nomads were ridiculously peaceful, but I also guess like that's due to the nature of like when wind is actually properly utilized, it's a very, very dangerous thing. So I was trying to like give this the vibe of it's a pouncing predator. It's about ready to take something down. I know it kind of looks like a weird hybridization of a uterus and a genie right now, but I swear it will get better than this. Just trust me, trust the process, guys. And that's actually one of my go-to sayings because I sculpt a lot of these things live, and a lot of people are saying, oh, why does it look like X, Y, or Z? Well, it's like, dude, just give me a minute. I've been doing this for like 20 minutes. It's not gonna look perfect straight off the bat. And I love how people can't seem to really recognize that at points. Yeah, so it's really fun whenever like leave alive for God knows how long and then just come back to it. And like, oh wow, this is really improved. It's like, yeah, wow, look what happens when you actually give me time to cook. Like, hey yo, this ain't McDonald's, just saying. Now speaking of cooking, let's actually talk about how I actually cook a lot of these ideas up. So for this one in particular, I started off as a one sphere sort of challenge because I wanted to sort of just like focus on the silhouette. And I find that it's really easy to do when I'm just focusing on like one object and not getting like too lost in the sauce of like multiple different subtools. And for any of you who do like any sort of character or creature design at all, you understand how important a silhouette is, especially for like a sort of disembodied sort of spirit like this. So having like something that actually is recognizable from the start from its just like base silhouette, that's a really strong and solid start to it. And it doesn't really matter if you get like too lost in the details because this isn't going to be a very detailed model regardless. And just to bring all those points together, that's actually why I gave it such a gangly sort of wispy design, because I wanted it to feel like it was able to move fairly agilely as well as it's very like just go with the flow, very like ethereal in nature. But it has like that sort of demanded sharpness to it because it's not doing this of its own free volition. It's doing it because it's literally like being sort of like summoned and commanded to. And I really wanted it to seem like it's being forced in a way to be a participant in this. Like it doesn't want to, but it's sort of just like there because it has to. And then because of that, it then made me start thinking of like, okay, what other sort of spirit sort of entities are normally enslaved to a person to follow their will? And that gave me like the perfect example of a genie, sort of like say from Aladdin. Like that's always portrayed in a very smoky sort of way. So like replace smoke with air, it actually kind of works. And that's how I'm going to then further do like the lower section of the body for it, as if it's like this sort of like tornado summoned from a singular point. Well, I do really enjoy. I'll explain that a bit more when I get to it. But for now, I'm sort of also thinking on how I would actually embody like the face of a spirit like this. Because I really didn't like the idea of its eyes being an actual thing. I didn't like the suggestion of like, oh yeah, no. If it has eyes, it's clearly visible on what it's doing. And it's not something I really like, especially if it's like an enslaved creature. I kind of like the idea of this being blinded to its master's bidding. And that sort of like lack of free will is further emphasized by like the hurricane tailspin I'm doing here. And for those of you who actually do want to know some of the technical side of how I've done this, what I did was I got a tube, I straightened it out, and then I went on a profile picture and just had it like set to a square. Then I put the twist on the bottom and the top, so I'm able to then rotate it accordingly. I then wanted to actually start playing around with like a thickness of like the actual tornado itself to make it seem as if it's like a bit more wild, a bit more unkempt, because I like the idea of like nature elemental things being fairly chaotic in nature, but in a sort of like chaotic neutral sense. So the idea of like the wind being all over the place, it did feel pretty appealing. And just there, I wanted to edit down like the profile to give it a bit more of a nicer whoosh to it. Like, I don't know really how to describe that outside, just like whoosh, whoosh, you know? And that's actually a big part of how my process is. Like, say, even right now, talking about this in such a way does feel a bit off because I go very much off of vibes at the time. You know, I'm very bad at pre-planning stuff. Like, even say, let's say, like, entire, like, talk right now is completely off the dome. Like, that's probably why it's a bit all over the place. But, hey, we're still learning, so when I'm a professional, hold me to a higher standard, please. And whilst we're on that road, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more, because, hey, I like the idea of growth. I want to actually be doing this full-time at some point, because I love making stuff. I find it really fun, and being able to actually focus primarily on that is the absolute goal of mine right now. So let's try to get to that, because I've been noticing some fairly decent growth, so yeah, come on, 2K by the end of the year. Now back to this lovely entity. I thought, like, the way it would typically be attacking would actually be via, like, massive claws, because going back to what I was saying earlier about how wind elemental things in most, like, battle sort of categories are normally slashing attacks of some variety. So I thought, like, giant talons would really give that away, as well as, like, it reminds me of, like, a feline sort of assassin. I'm pretty sure, like, there's this one character in One Punch Man. What's say, like, this cat or something, what actually has, like, these massive talons, what say would sneak up on anything and, like, sliver through anything. And that does actually fit into the theme of this guy, because he's also able to, like, fit into, like, anything that has, like, an inch big gap or so. So compounding those ideas actually really work. And what I'm actually doing for, like, this hair / headpiece was trying to, like, give it a bit more character than the original thing I saw, because on the other one, it had, like, 3 crowns or something like that. But, I don't know, that just seemed kind of dull to me. Like, it does look good objectively, but I wanted to make this feel more of my own creation to some extent. And I really did want to harper back into the whole wind elemental side of it. What does kind of, like, contradict the sort of, like, whole silent invisible assassin thing. But hey, Ray would have something what looks fun for the sake of it being fun, because who doesn't love the rule of cool at the end of the day? Because I feel like too many people get too lost in the smoke of, hey, yeah, no, I need this thing to be completely serious. Like, no, okay, come on. If something can't be a little goofy or over the top, like, it's not going to be as enjoyable. Like, say, for example, like, I'm a pretty big fan of, like, Warhammer 40k, but we have to admit, like, behind all the grimdark stuff, it is objectively really stupid. Like, have you ever actually looked at, like, a proper Space Marine model? Yeah, they look cool, but they're just like fat little army guys. That's all they are, and I kind of love that. As well as, like, the Primarchs just being, like, bigger versions of those weird proportion guys. Like, it's great, and, like, that is really fun, because they do translate to really good looking models, because that inherent little goofiness or, like, silliness to them, it does actually mean they're being able to be painted a little more easily. Like, don't get me wrong, there's some, like, very serious like models out there, like, say, Archvillain Games, Chef's Kiss, like, phenomenal for that sort of stuff. But I also want to find, like, a good balance between actually doing something serious, but also, like, having that right level of, hey, yo, this is just a stupid little guy, you know what I mean? Because I would like to potentially do this as a like, future proxy sort of service, but where I am creating, like, all these head creatures and models for, like, a D&D 3D printing purposes. Because I have been seeing from, like, a lot of friends of mine, like, they do normally outsource these to other people. So to potentially be one of those, like, that could be a potential career goal for myself, and we'll see how that goes. And just a funny little tidbit about myself, I actually do have a resin 3D printer, but since I have that, I also simultaneously don't actually have a space to be 3D printing without poisoning myself, so that's definitely going to be on the back burner until I get, like, a bigger place, or just some place with a garden where I'm able to have a shed outside where I'm actually printing all these things out without just slowly, like, offing myself. So, career goals, come on, we got this. And going back to the career goals, it's actually really weird upping over from, like, short form to, like, longer form content. Because, say, I'm used to yapping for, like, 2 minutes just fine, but, like, stretching this over to, like, 10 to 12, oh, good golly, that is hard. Because I feel there's only so much I can really say about, like, the sculpt and design. I think I might start trying to introduce, like, lore stories to this, like, give, like, this channel a bit more of a character to it, like, as if it's, like, a Monster Hunter character going on a safari and just, like, reporting everything it sees or something along those lines, because I feel that could be fun and there could be a little potential there. So if you guys would be interested in, like, that sort of idea, like, let me know. I would happily, like, try and incorporate that, because I don't know, I'm still, like, getting used to all of this. I want to, like, develop as a creator to a level where actually people are pretty interested and invested by. So whatever, like, really rocks your guys' boat, like, let me know. I'd really like to hear, because we're all about constructive feedback here. So anything you want to tell me, just go for it. Okay, now finally going back to the model again. I really do like using the tube tool. It's like one of my favorite things in Nomad because it gives you a lot of finite control, and I really like that, especially for positioning and posing of most shapes. Like, it gives it a lot more natural feels. Like, say how it works for like at least like a wind, hair, wisps, and everything, as well as like these talons. Don't get me wrong, I really do like using the move tool here and where I can, but there's just a level of control what this offers that what I really don't feel can be beat in most areas. And just from like how much you're able to like manipulate this or stuff, like that's why I really recommend, if you do want to actually start posing these up, always clone and keep one base one ready just in case you realize, oh no, I've gone a bit too far with this one. Because once you start sculpting, that's when you have to like lose the availability to pose up. So having like that available is so useful. Like, I will stand by that till the end of time. And this is something I normally don't do for a lot of my models, but I probably will start doing a bit more. But I'm actually going to start coloring this in a bit, just so it really breaks up the design a bit more. It's not like a full paint job. I'm going to try to get into a better habit of that down the road. But for now, it's just to really separate the idea of like the actual spirit of the elemental versus the actual like element itself. So like, oh yeah, there's its like actual true essence body, and the rest of it is just being conjured around itself. And I felt like that'd be a cool way of actually visualizing elementals. Because like, I'm not gonna lie, the main way I've actually been visualizing like this most elemental creatures is from like, does anyone remember show Max Steel? Basically just that. Like, that is how it's been going through my head most of the time. But if any of you guys have like any sort of ideas how you would represent like a wind elemental in any sort of way, I'd love to hear it, because it's really interesting seeing all these different people's takes. Like, that's actually the point of the series, to have my own unique take on the monster manual. Something what's been established for such a long time, but everyone's able to like picture something slightly differently, and it's really cool trying to bring that out in new ways. So that's basically it for everything I did for the sculpt. I know I really didn't describe the sculpting process as well as I should have. But like, I kind of like the idea of this sort of just being more of a vibe, sort of like, we hang out, we make stuff, and just go from there. But if you guys have liked, please remember to subscribe and stay tuned for next time. Bye.